My name is Chris with Headlight Revolution, and I'm bringing you one of the coolest grills on the market today from Vision X. They created a grill that holds 4 light cannons for the new Superduty. Behind me I've got a 2017 Ford F350 Superduty, and it looks absolutely amazing. And I gotta tell you, 4 light cannons on the front of this truck is unbelievably bright. I'm gonna show you guys how to install it, how to get your camera working if you've got the front mounted camera, everything you need to know. Let's get started. So the first step in getting this grill all apart here is to remove these plastic clips on the top of it. And there's about 12 of them. Some of them are in recessed holes. Using an automotive pry tool, you could honestly use a flat screwdriver, a butter knife even, get under the top clip, pop it up, and then the whole thing comes out. So center section, pop the center section out, and yank the whole clip base out of there. There's quite a few of them. It's easy to miss one or two. Take your time, you'll get them. You can remove this plastic piece entirely and set it off to the side. We won't be needing it. Now, at this point, we've got a handful of 10mm bolts on the front of this grill. Take a socket and spin them free. You don't need a power tool for it. If you've got one, it makes it a lot faster. There's about 6 of these, if I'm not mistaken. And to set them off to the side, we will reuse these with the Vision X grill. Now, if you've got the front-facing camera, you're going to have a front washer fluid line running to your grill. It's to wash the camera. This actually gets deleted, so how you want to unplug it is completely up to you. This kit did not include anything to plug this line with. A vacuum cap works just fine. It ends up running back to a T. I'll show you that a little bit later in the video. Essentially what you need to do is just unroute this line at the moment, disconnect it up top, and pull it toward you. Now grab the grill like I'm showing you here and yank it toward you. Behind there you're going to see an electrical connector for your front-facing camera if you have one. If you don't have one, don't worry about this step. The grill pops off and you can set it on a stand. When I was taking this truck apart, I mistakenly called this a vacuum line. That's honestly what I thought it was. This uses washer fluid. It's connected to your washer fluid reservoir, and it washes your front camera. Now, if you don't have a truck that has this trim level, the adaptive cruise package and the 360 camera package, you don't have to worry about that. If you do, I'm going to show you how to take care of it and make sure that everything keeps working the way it should be. Now, unfortunately, you can't use your washer fluid for your front camera anymore. That's not going to work. The Vision X grill just doesn't have the mounting provisions for it. They do have mounting provisions for the camera though, so all the important features will still work. You're going to need to cap off your washer fluid line. You can get a cap like this at any automotive parts store. Vision X did not include it with our kit today, but I'm sure they will in the future. So I'm going to cap this and we'll keep rolling. Now that we're just working on our new grill, we can get the camera installed first. This bracket here is from Vision X, and you install your old camera into it at an angle like so. It's going to sit like this. It's a little counterintuitive. It looks like it would sit flat in there, but the factory camera actually sat at an angle facing downward as well. This is how it's supposed to be. Now, this is the bottom, the side with the stud. With the camera sitting like this, take your hardware piece here and put it over the stud and onto the camera. Like so. Now you can take the lock washer and nut and install it onto the stud. Now the more you tighten this, the more pressure it's going to put on the camera itself with this little bracket, so you don't have to go too crazy. It'll stay. It doesn't take a whole lot of force to hold it. Take a 3/8 wrench and just give that nut a couple turns. Now you can take this bracket, this assembly here for your camera, and install it under your grill. There's 4 studs welded into the back. Set it onto the studs and use the supplied nuts and washers to complete the install. Now we're finally to the exciting point where we can install the lights. We're going to be using the Vision X CG2 lights. They're the light cannon style light. We're going to be doing 2 different optics. We've got the mixed optic, and then we've got the very narrow single diode optic for our distance lighting. We're going to do the singles in the middle. We're going to do the mixed on the outside, hoping to illuminate the ditch a little bit. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Vision X in any way, I'll say this. If you want the second or third best lights, you should look somewhere else. If you want the most durable, most waterproof, most indestructible light on the market that is also the brightest, this is what you need. It's really straightforward. We've got mounting tabs on the bottom here. We've got 4 mounting tabs for 4 lights. I think you'd be foolish to try to fit anything but a light cannon in here. you'd just be mixing and matching things that don't really work well together. We went out and got some spacers for this install. We wanted the light to be as perfectly centered as possible, and the way that the light sat in there without the spacer was a little bit down toward the bottom. Now, you could probably bring this bracket up a little bit. It looks like you could loosen it, but we happen to have the right spacer on hand, so we just thought, hey, let's do this. It'll look good. Take your washer and nut. I mean, it doesn't get any more straightforward than this. Really not much to it. Compared to everything else we've been doing in this video, this is the easy part. And once again, we did the distance lighting in the center. These single diode lights are designed to reach down the road. These things are insane. If you haven't tried them out, if you haven't experienced them, they're unbelievable. There's nothing I love more than putting a bunch of badass lights in a Vision X grill. Now, I'm going to share a little piece of advice. When you've got 4 lights like this, especially the middle ones, how you aim them is extremely important. So, I don't go crazy tightening these things up on the bench. I usually snug them up, get them in the vehicle, get them wired up, get them working, take them out at night to some deserted long stretch of something, field or a highway, and really tweak them where I want them, and then I'll go back through and really tighten them down. If you just tighten them all up real snug right now and then go out and try to adjust them, you're gonna have light everywhere, up and down, left and right, and you're gonna have a bunch of problems. So you don't want that. So right now I'm just trying to get these lights as level as possible with each other off the truck. If you can get them, reasonably close on the bench, I'd really recommend doing that. You won't get it perfect, I promise. Especially when it comes to those center beams, they're too narrow, they're too focused. You'll notice if they're off even a little bit. But really, until you get them on the truck, you don't know exactly where they need to be. So if you get them just close, eyeball it as best you can, look at the gaps in the hole and everything, it'll save you a lot of time. Now, for the fun part, we have a little trimming to do. Depending on your power tool collection, that might dictate what you use to do this trimming. If you have an air saw, sweet. If you have a reciprocating saw like I've got, cool. Sawzall, whatever you got. You could even use drill bits and drill holes here to make this thing weaker and just break it if you wanted. But what we're trying to accomplish here, we need to cut across right here, and right down here. We're getting rid of this center section here. Our lights are going there, and we cannot keep the lights there and have this at the same time. So we'd rather have the lights, right? I'm sure you'd rather have the lights too. I'm gonna move the horns just in case. I don't want anything in the way that has any wiring attached to it that could potentially be damaged. As you can see, I just popped this little wire retainer off there. I'm just gonna hang these up here for now, out of the way. If you've got a friend that can watch what you're doing just to make sure that you don't go too far back, that's a good idea, especially if you're using a saw like me. All right, as you can see, this is all that it was. It looks daunting, it's not that bad. Now, make sure you cut it just like I did. Do not face the blade inward toward the vehicle if you can help it. On this side I had to do that, but on this one and this one, I was cutting out, pulling toward me, getting it out of there. You don't want to nick your radiator, you don't want to nick anything like that. As long as you work really carefully and slowly, you're not going to have any problems. Use as small a blade as possible. I had a little excess on mine, it was the only blade I had, but at the end of the day, it wasn't that bad. Do it like I did it, you won't have any trouble. Now, you can put the horns back on, and they would go just like this, and you could bend them in to make the grill fit, and that'd be fine. But my camera guy told me as I was about to put these back together, he said, those look awful right there. You can see them in the grill, it looks terrible. There's wiring hanging out, we can't have that. So we brainstormed and we found a better place to put them. If you've got a self-drilling screw at home, you can take this bracket, stick it up here in this aluminum area, this aluminum core support, and just send a screw through there. There's nothing back there. It's pretty safe. There's a harness down below. Just make sure you're careful when you're drilling. And this looks way, way more clean than having them down there. The lights cover them. The steel covers them from the grill. You don't have any of that ugly hanging out down there. So with that in mind, if you wanted to cut this down a little bit lower, you could. It's up to you. If you don't like the way that this looks, just sticking up, you could do that too. Totally up to you. It's your truck. It's your grill. We just wanted to share some options with you. Now I'm going to make this wiring really easy for you if you have the upfitter switches. If not, you have to run this switch into the inside of your truck. There's no exception, you have to do it. If you have the upfitter switches, you don't need to do that. Cut the switch wiring off, throw it away, tape the black and the white wires that went to the switch up right here. You don't need them, cut them, tape them up. Keep the blue wire. This is your trigger wire. And we're going to connect this to one of the upfitter switch outputs, and it will power these relays. They'll activate, they'll send battery voltage to your lights. It's really simple, it's really straightforward, and it's the best way to do this. We're also using a splitter from Vision X. These relay harnesses are designed to run 2 lights. That's how they come out of the box. If you take the splitter and you attach it to the end, we've got 2 instead of 1. If you do that to this one, we'll have 4 instead of 2. And that means you can run everything off these relays. Now the wire gauge is sufficient to do that. There's no worry, the relays are plenty durable enough, and we're only going to be pulling about 1 amp or less from our upfitter switch, so everything should be just fine across the board to run this system like this. We're in the home stretch now. If you reach down alongside the coolant reservoir and this fuse box here, this fuse box is for your upfitter switches, by the way, you're going to find your bundle of wiring for the upfitter switch. Now on this bundle of wiring, you're going to see a tag, and that tag will tell you what each of these wires does as far as which switch activates it. There are 6 switches in the cab, and there are 6 wires out here. You can also find this information in your owner's manual and a little bit more in-depth circuit info as well, as far as what current draw these are all capable of. We're hooking this to switch number 1. Go ahead and take your zip tie and just put it through your resistor or your relays. And we're just going to tie this thing off right here. It doesn't weigh much, it's not going to stress anything. It's always important to mount relays upright like this so that water and stuff doesn't drain into them. Now, tuck your wiring back behind the battery a little bit here. We don't need all this slack. And as you can see, we've got the 2 black wires, 2 red wires for our relays. Take a 10mm socket and loosen up your battery terminal. Sometimes the bottom of the terminal will spin on you, as you just saw. If you just grab it with the pliers or something like that, you can hold on to it and take the terminal nut off. And that's our black, that's our negative, so we'll go ahead and attach that to this side. Take these 2 terminals, put them on just like this. And we'll do the same thing over on our positive side. So you can see that one, let me take it off without using the pliers, so it's hit or miss. Put the 2 red wires down. You don't have to go crazy on these. Definitely don't go crazy on them. A little bit goes a long ways when it comes to these battery terminals. Our relays are installed. Let's run our light wiring down, get this grill installed. You can really follow your old washer fluid line right here and just send these through this hole. You've got plenty of slack wiring wise. You can get creative, you can run it however you want. If you don't like the way I'm doing it, you've got plenty of options on the front of this truck, so that's nice. I mean, I would always rather have too much slack than not enough. For now, I'm just going to kind of leave the excess back here. I'm going to go back and tidy it up, zip tie it up in a little bit. You need to take these screws out right here. There's just one on each side. The grill mounts there, so using a T20 Torx bit, pop it out. Same here. And they look like this. It's time to install the grill. Now, be careful not to scratch your truck. If you got a chrome bumper, painted bumper, whatever you got, make sure that you put some tape down or something like that so you don't scratch your truck or your headlights. This thing's kind of awkward, kind of heavy. Now, we've got 4 plugs back here for each of the light cannons that we just installed. We've got our Vision X relay harness plug back there. Simply plug each of those 4 into the relay harness, tidy them up, zip tie them out of the way. Now, the screws you took out of the headlights, the black ones, the Torx bit screws, put those on an extension. Do your best not to drop them. And you can kind of fish them through here, through the metal tab on the Vision X grill, and into where they belong. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other one. One thing that was really challenging to get a shot of, and we really weren't able to, are these screw holes in the bottom. There's metal tabs down there. Vision X supplies screws with the grill, and all you gotta do is drill them in to the plastic. It's not a big deal. They also have these little backing plates that you can put on the back side of it to really tighten it down. They thread into each other like so. This thing's starting to look completed, isn't it? If you just put your bolts back in along the top here, put your black plastic cover back on, and put those push clips in, you're just about all done. Zip tie up any wiring that you left on the battery area and flip the switch and see what happens. I know that looks like a lot of work, okay? Here's the thing, if you follow the video instructions to the T, you're not gonna have any trouble. The only thing you gotta do is cut that plastic piece out. It's really not a big deal. Now, if you need anything for these trucks at all, headlights, fog lights, tail lights, reverse lights, you name it, we've got you covered. Check out our YouTube page, Headlight Revolution. Check out our website, www.headlightrevolution.com. Thank you for watching.